Hello. Welcome back to the, I think, 74th, maybe, or 73rd episode of the Nobody Asked for This podcast. It's really exciting. I went from, in the beginning, knowing the exact number to hoping for a day where I would one day not know the number at all. Excuse me. I'll explain that noise in a second. To going to a day where I am now, which is, I kind of know the number-ish, but I couldn't tell you exactly, which is good. It means we're on the right track. If you hear car noises, as you might have, there's nothing worse than when I hear a noise that I think is going to be loud, and then everyone, oh my God, no one listens to this. But in theory, the listeners, in quotes, are like, we didn't hear that. So it's like, I really just made a comment for nothing, but yeah, I'm in a parking lot. I feel like I thrive in a parking lot. I love to eat in a parking lot, go to a drive-thru. I don't do this often, but go to a drive-thru and then park and then just eat. Now, I have read that staying in a open parking lot, just in a car, is actually not that safe because essentially someone could just run up and bang on the window and I guess break it. I don't know. I can't fully remember the details around that statistic, but I heard that, it's not necessarily recommended. I do lock the doors normally. And, so far so good, but everyone be safe, be vigilant. That was not me recommending to do anything. I'm just talking about my life and my existence. But anyway, this is the last... Two very exciting things are happening today. This is the last episode of the Nobody Asked for This podcast in October. I know everyone got nervous. Everyone threw their phones across the room. Don't worry, this is not the last episode of the Nobody Asked for This podcast that I am planning on it being. Hopefully it goes on longer. I think it will. But this is the last Nobody Asked for This podcast in October. The last Nobody Asked for This podcast before... Can I say Nobody Asked for This again? The last Nobody Asked for This podcast before Halloween. And also, potentially, I don't want to get too excited. I know we've talked about this topic before, but I just kind of want to ease into it. This might, maybe, cross our fingers if we're lucky. This might be the last episode of the Nobody Asked for This podcast when we are living in a world without the Starbucks, specifically, gingerbread latte. From my understanding, the Christmas drinks come out, what day? November 2nd, which is Thursday. Now I'm going to let you in on a little secret. While these episodes come out on Thursdays, I record them on Wednesday. Normally. Now, I guess I could record it earlier in the week because it doesn't have to be last minute, but that's just kind of not the routine I'm in. And I'd really appreciate it if you could just accept that. So, potentially the last episode. I could be... I was going to say I could be sipping a gingerbread latte while recording the next episode, but no, because I would have to be recording that on November 1st. So I could be sipping a gingerbread latte as soon as 2 episodes from now. How exciting is that? Now, if it doesn't happen, I'm going to feel really stupid, and I'm going to go back in time and delete this entire episode. It just doesn't need to exist anymore. Or, if not, delete just this kind of chunk of time. But anyway, I hope everyone has had a great week. At the end of every episode, I say have a great week, but I don't usually follow up. Part of that is because I can't hear anybody. If I asked you how was your week, I couldn't really get an answer. Another part of that is I don't have listeners. As I said before, I like to do at least one reminder every episode that just in case you're someone who accidentally stumbles upon this on either the podcast app or Spotify or YouTube or anything like that, it sounds like I think that I'm talking to people. I know that I'm not. I know that no one listens to this. I don't even listen to this. There are, I would say, the majority of the minutes. I sound like Netflix. Netflix, as you know how they report their stats, whatever, in minutes watched. What the hell does that mean? I'll get back to what I was saying in a second, but Netflix will be like, this is the number one watch show with 52 billion minutes. Is that 2 hours? Is that 7 hours? Is that, like, tell me how many people watched. I don't know what minutes means. I'm not a data scientist. I feel like that's what a lot of people or a lot of companies do to, like, release their data but still be vague. They'll give it in a unit. Look, I'm a freaking biologist. A unit, a metric in which the average person would read and just say, oh yeah, that sounds like a big number. But, like, is it? I honestly don't know. And I don't know when I'll know or how I'll know. But back to what I was saying. The majority of the minutes recorded that I've ever recorded for these podcasts have not been listened to by anybody, myself included. So really, I can't really get mad at people for not listening, because I think you should really lead by example and or be the change you wish to see in the world. So I guess I should be the one. Sorry, I'm just looking to see if this person is a person who's going to give me a ticket. I can't tell. He looks like a security guard. Do security guards give tickets? Okay, yeah, he doesn't look interested. Okay. I think we're good. How embarrassing. Like, not only do I make no money off of this podcast, but then to incur, like, a fine whilst recording. Like, that's terrible. It's almost as bad as the time I bought 2 sets of Amazon microphones and then used them once. They were terrible quality, and then I've just been using my phone for the rest of the time. If you haven't been able to tell, I'm not the best at, like, financial decisions. That's why I actually think I spend less money, because I'm bad at that. Like, I don't really know what's a good purchase and what's not. I don't know what's, like, worth the money and what's not, so I just usually go for not. But that's a conversation for another day. And probably a different forum. This is not the Nobody Asked for This Money podcast. Although if someone wants to give me money, I'm asking, is what I'm telling you. I'm asking for money. Okay, what else do we talk about on this thing? We usually do some fast food news. Let me think. We talked about, is Starbucks fast food? I gotta say, I love Taco Bell. I have always, will always love Taco Bell. They're not necessarily what I would call fast. And if we're being really real, it's not exactly what I would call food. So I'm not calling them out by any means. But, like, the problem with the fast part, the food part, I can't really defend. Whatever it is, it tastes great. In fact, if you are, like myself, a Canadian, if you try the Canadian Taco Bell and then compare it to the American Taco Bell, whatever chemicals they're allowed to use in America that have been banned here make the food 1,000 times better. The burritos in Taco Bell US are so much better than the burritos in American Taco Bell. I don't know why. I'm assuming, like I said before, there's, like, some sort of Food and Drug Administration rules in the US that are a bit more loosey-goosey, whereas here we kind of have to, stick to more of, like, what I would call food molecule based food, as opposed to maybe more chemical molecule based substances. Just a theory. I have not done any research. It's like one of those things where I've said it enough times that I can't remember if I read it somewhere or if it was just an opinion. Does that ever happen to you? Where you're like, yeah, no, this happened. And then it's been like you've been saying that for 5 years and you can't remember if someone told you that, if you made it up, if it was a joke, if you read it somewhere but it wasn't true, if you read it somewhere and it was true. It's kind of one of those things where it's like I have made it fact. Which is probably, like, part of the reason that, things maybe aren't so going so well just globally, but whatever. I do have something to talk about. So I don't know if I mentioned it last week, but I did a Trader Joe's run. And by run, I mean I drove and then walked in the store. There was no running involved. I would never. But just for the sake of it, I did a Trader Joe's run. And I got a bunch of things, but I got pumpkin yogurt. I don't believe it was called pumpkin spice. I think it was just pumpkin yogurt. And let me tell you, that stuff was good. And I had a mini panic last night because my power went out for a few hours, and when it first happened I was like, okay, well that sucks, I can't charge my phone, but that's okay. I have my book And then I was like, well, I can't see anything. And I said, well, that's okay. I have my Kobo, my e-reader. So I was doing that. And then in a panic, I remembered it was like in Home Alone when she was like, Kevin! But instead of Kevin, I said, my pumpkin spice yogurt. Or sorry, my pumpkin yogurt. Because using my deductive reasoning skills, I figured that, okay, if there's no power, then there's no like electricity. I don't know if those are synonyms for each other, but you know what I mean. And if there's no electricity, that means there's nothing powering up the fridge, which means the fridge is going to get warm, which means my pumpkin spice yogurt is going to get warm and curdly, and then I'm not going to be able to eat it. Now, luckily, from what I know, the power came back on after only about 4 hours. So I think I should be good. If anything, it's pumpkin spice sour cream, which I'm totally fine with. I think I can make that work. I could put that on like a taco. I could put that on the burrito from Taco Bell that I don't find as good as compared to the American one. I'm still gonna make it work. But yeah, if anyone is looking for like a good yogurt flavor, the Trader Joe's and Trader Joe's is accessible to you. The Trader Joe's pumpkin yogurt. I also have a quick question. At Walmart, at least in Canada, they sell a brand of snacks called like Joe's Tasty Travels, maybe? Joe's something or other. It's a Joe. And I would like to know if he is related to the Trader Joe. Because it's a little bit confusing. And it's like the same type of snacks. It's like dried fruit. And they have these like yogurt covered raisins that are pretty good. And they have like these like snack mix things and these like corn chips and corn nuts. So if anyone can do that research for me, and again, I know no one listens to this, so no one's going to do it. I'm just kind of filling time. But if anyone could do some maybe like a 23andMe result search and let me know if Joe's Tasty Travels is in any way, shape, or form related to Trader Joe. I think that could really do me some good to know. Because, yeah. And I also would like to know if either of those Joes, both, neither, or none, are related to the Joe that sells clothes at Superstore. And then I want to know, looping it back to Walmart, if they are cousins with George, which is the name brand of the clothes at Walmart. So just if we want to do like a family tree or lack thereof, that would be fun. Also, speaking of Walmart, I have awful news. I don't know if I've talked about this phenomena. I don't know, I don't speak Latin yet. I'm working on it. I don't know if I've talked about this, but for whatever reason, whenever I find something I like, be it a show, be it a type of snack, be it, in this case, a cookie, I am able to discover it. And it's usually something that's been around for a while. I'm able to discover it. I try it once, listen to it once, watch it once. And then the next time I go to get it, it's been discontinued. It happens to me all the time. Now, I'm sure everyone says, oh, everything I like gets canceled. Everything. It seriously happens to me every time. And I'm so proud because I have documented proof of this somewhere in the files of the Nobody Asked for This podcast, in the archives, so to speak. I don't remember what episode, and because, again, I don't listen to it, I'm not really going to go back and find the episode, but I talked about how Walmart had these coconut caramel fudge cookies, as well as these like fudge peanut butter cookies that were the Great Value brand, that were like $1.90 something for like a big pack of cookies, that were the best cookies I'd ever had in my life. I believe they are some sort of a like copycat version of like Girl Scout cookies, Girl Guide cookies, whatever, in the States. So I was able to buy them once. They were so good. I went back to buy them a couple weeks later, and they don't exist. So I don't know who I have to talk to. I don't know who I pissed off. I don't know what karma, like if my karma's messed up, but it's like something happened. Something's wrong, because it happens to me every time. So just putting that out there. Also, I do think I need to do some sort of karmic cleansing, because all of these things are minor things, but I feel like in the past week or so, like multiple inconveniences have been happening. Like my car sounds like a foghorn. I don't even know what a foghorn is, but like my car's making some weird noises. Let me see. What's a foghorn? Something about boats, sure. Yeah, my car's making some funky noises. It's like rattling, shaking, like a freaking ride at Disneyland. Like, that's not what I signed up for. I signed for a vehicle. That's what I thought I was buying, not Magic Mountain Part 2, 2.0. I dropped my phone, as I talked about last week, with now there's a green line down the center. Actually, update on that. Actually, I'll finish this thought. I have to fix my karma. If anyone has any tips, if I have anything to do to fix that, if I have to, like, I don't know, do certain rituals, let me know. I'm open. But my phone battery, do you know how Apple does this confusing thing? Not my battery. I don't know why I said the word battery. Forget I said that. Apple does this confusing thing where they decide that they want to send you a report each week of how much phone, time you've spent on your phone, which is confusing to me because if you're Apple, don't you want people to spend a lot of time on their phone? And I feel like alerting people at, for whatever reason, 9:07 a.m. on a Sunday, alerting them the amount of time they've spent on their phone makes zero sense, because it would only encourage someone to spend less time on your phone. I don't think anyone's picking up their phone at 9:08 on a Sunday morning to find that, oh my gosh, you know what? I only spent 7 hours average on my phone this week. I need to make it 8. Like, that's not how this is going to work, Apple. Someone's going to pick up their phone and think, oh my gosh, I spent 14 hours average on a week on my phone, like, per day. I need to spend, maybe let's shoot for 10. Like, it doesn't have to be 14. I will reveal my numbers. I'll be brave and say it's usually around, like, 5, maybe 4, 5, or 6 hours. It can kind of depend. In my defense, I used to do a lot of reading on my phone. I mean, listen, I'm not blaming the reading, but you know what I mean. Also, I'll be listening to music, and I think that counts as me having my, like, phone screen on, or, like, I'll fall asleep with my headphones in. I feel like that shouldn't count. There needs to be some sort of, like, data analysis people that can go in and, like, take out those instances. But yeah, I think around 4 or 5 hours on my phone. Not this week. Since I've had the green line, my phone battery percentage, or no, I keep saying battery. My screen time, I think is what they call it, has gone down 50%. In all actuality, just to be honest, it's gone down 49%, but 50 sounds better, so I'm just going to bump that up one more. So really, if you are a parent, a guardian, someone who you yourself wants to spend less time on your phone, just drop it. Drop it to smithereens. Drop it where I dropped it. Drop it, just in your driveway. Hopefully your driveway is the same texture as mine. And drop it, like, face down so that it, like, kind of chips, not on the screen, but on the bottom. And then, if you're lucky, only if you're lucky, this only happens to the chosen ones, you'll get a green line down the right side of your screen, to which you can't really see anything. And then, if you're really lucky and special, like me, you'll get a second green line, a thinner green line, going down the very, very, very side. And which makes it so you can't see anything on your phone. And excuse me, and it gives you a headache. And it makes it so that if you're ever using your phone in the dark and then you turn your phone off, you still see the green line. Or in my case, the green lines, plural. So just a life hack. I just want to put that out there. Like, I know you can do that thing where you can lock certain apps after certain amounts of time, or you can, like, I don't know, like, throw your phone in a locked safe, or, like, have it shut off at a certain time. You could do that, or you could just drop it. And then, unfortunately, just beware. I don't want to set false expectations. Like, you will have to do everything in the horizontal position on your phone, or else you won't be able to read any messages. Or, like, I'll be answering emails and just praying that half of the sentence made sense and wasn't a typo. Because as I've talked about before, I can't spell if my literal life depended on it. But, it is what it is. You can only do what you can do. Speaking of Halloween, which I haven't been speaking of Halloween for about 15 minutes, but I've noticed a pattern with me is I will have my best ideas for Halloween costumes November 1st. Okay, I have to be completely honest with you all. When I started this sentence, I have my best Halloween costumes November 1st. I was in a completely different location. As I had detailed, I was in the car. I am no longer in the car. It's about maybe like 2 hours later-ish, 2 and a bit. And I'm now comfortably in my sweatpants in the comfort of my beanbag chair, which is where I do most of my, creative work, aka this podcast. So apologies, sometimes, most of the time, especially recently, I do this all in one go. But I'm on the move, I'm a very busy person, and unfortunately, when you have a hobby such as this podcast where you make $0 and 0 cents off of it, you kind of do just have to sort of fit it in wherever it works in your schedule. I unfortunately am not able to forego other opportunities to pursue this, time pass. So it is what it is. I do have to say, there's a fun update. I was talking about the green line on my phone screen before this, or in the beginning of this episode, or maybe toward the middle. But I now have this weird, blotch. Maybe I just noticed it. Maybe it's been there for a while. But I have this weird blotch that almost looks like I spilled ink at the bottom of the green line. And it's not going away. So I'm starting to think it's time for a new phone. Now, the problem is, I used to be Apple's, not number one fan, but maybe, I almost kicked my mug over, maybe Apple's 87th biggest fan. And I could tell you just by looking at a phone, what model it was, what make it was. I could tell you the difference between the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 7, the different features. I could tell you the different versions. I could tell you if it was worth getting the S that year. How they would do iPhone 4, iPhone 4S, iPhone 5, iPhone 5S, they would do the stupid one. I've completely lost any grip on Apple reality that I've had, because ever since they made the phones start looking like the camera was some sort of a stovetop stuffing, once they did that, they've kind of really, if we're just going to be honest, haven't really changed much. I think they just keep tweaking small things. I think they're out of ideas, because at this point, most phones, but most iPhones especially, they're all screen. So you can't really do much else. We're just holding the screen. So how do you make that design look different? How do you make that, look new? You look at the iPhone 3 to the iPhone 4 to the iPhone 5 to the iPhone 6. Those are all completely different. But then you look at the 7 and it's okay, same idea. Maybe the camera's changing different. And then the 10, and it's oh, this is revolutionary. But since the 10, they all kind of look the same, besides the stovetop. I don't even know which version of the phone I have. I can't even remember. I think it's not a stovetop, so it must be a 10. Maybe I have an S. I don't know. Plus, or maybe I don't know. And they keep adding verbs. It's Pro, Max, Mini. Just just say this is the, just make one version. Make one version. So all of that to say, I don't know which phone to get. So I think I might just pay to replace the screen. If anyone out of the 0 people listening to this know anywhere where I can get a free phone screen replacement, let me know. I'll give you a free shout out, which is essentially me screaming into the void. I'm hearing that a theme over the past few episodes has been because I'm recording this next to a guitar, and for whatever reason, the tone of my voice, maybe the volume of my voice, I don't know, is bouncing off the guitar, and it's creating just a lovely noise, a lovely sort of sound that, from what I've heard, does not pick up on the audio. But I don't know. So really, it's just making me feel nuts. What's everyone going to be for Halloween? I feel like that's a step too far. I want to be, basically, that's what I was talking about. I was talking about Halloween. I don't really dress up for Halloween because I don't really have a need to dress up for Halloween, if you know what I'm saying. No one's asking me to dress up. No one cares. I don't really have anywhere to go. I'm definitely not trick-or-treating. I also have, sort of a thing with trick-or-treating in that I, for whatever reason, was born, like, you know how most kids have their growth spurt at like maybe 13, 14, 15, 16, something like that? I had my growth spurt at like 5. So I was extremely tall for a 5-year-old, and then everyone caught up to me, and I'm not even like particularly tall now. I'm not short, but like I'm not the tallest person in the room, you know? I'm like a 6 foot, but like really could be 5'11", but I'm not going to check because I'm just going to go with the fact that I'm 6 foot, you know, type thing. But like maybe 5'11", I don't know. I actually don't know. But I think my license says 6 feet because you just round up, you know? You just round up, but whatever. I would embrace being 5'11". I actually think that's more my brand than anything. So maybe I'll look into that. But the problem with me having my growth spurt at 5 is 2 things. One, it gave me the identity of a tall person. I kind of shaped this like, yeah, I'm tall. And then like fast forward 10 years and I wasn't even that tall necessarily. So, but I had thought that I was tall for so long. So that's one thing, which I'm going to try to work through in some sort of therapeutic correspondence at some point. But haven't got to that. Second thing, I never got as much candy as the other kids because I looked older. Like people saw me at 7 and were like, why is this 10-year-old? And I didn't look old. Like I was just tall. And for whatever reason, a lot of people confuse height for age. I'm like, I'm not like a 13-year-old trying to get candy. I'm a 9-year-old being a 9-year-old. You know? Also, the problem with being Canadian, no, not Canadian, but like in October where I live, it's cold. Not like snowing cold, but cold. And I myself am very much a perfectionist. So if I wanted to dress up as something, I wanted to look exactly like that thing. In fact, it had nothing to do with Halloween, but one time I had a gift card to the children's place, which it's just like a kid's like clothes store. I don't know that it exists anymore, but it might. Who knows? It's like a Gap. I went to the children's place and I saw this mannequin was wearing this outfit. And something I didn't know at the time, but have since sort of gathered from thinking and reflecting on this story, is in order to make a mannequin not look so like mannequin-y, they put a couple layers of clothes underneath the mannequin to make it sort of like look more, not 3D, but just look more real, I guess. So when I wanted the outfit of the mannequin, I just didn't get the outer layer. I got every single layer that they put on the mannequin. Now, I don't know if it was a marketing technique. I don't know if I like was fooled by big mannequin, but like to the socks that the mannequin was wearing, got the exact outfit. So I applied that same ideology to my Halloween costume. Now, the problem was I would get in my Halloween costume, and one year I was a basketball player. So I had like my basketball uniform. And I, at whatever, I was probably like 8 or 9, was ready to go trick-or-treating in my tank top and my shorts. And I got to the door, and I was told, under no circumstances are you going out on October 31st in, I don't know, maybe 9-degree weather, which for the conversion to Fahrenheit would probably be like 50 degrees. I was told no. But I was like, I'm a basketball player. I'm not a basketball player in the cold. I'm just a basketball player. How is anyone going to know that? You know? Now, I was carrying around a basketball, so that probably did help. But I was pissed. I was pissed. I was like, this isn't right. It's all ruined. I'm just going to like start drinking candy cane hot chocolate because I'm skipping this season entirely. And I don't actually remember how that night ended up. I assume I kind of got over it and just went for the candy, but I don't know. It sticks with me to this day. So I hope everyone has a safe Halloween. And again, everyone is actually nobody, because this podcast is not called Everyone Asked for This. It's called Nobody Asked for This. But I hope none of you have a great Halloween. I hope you tell your friends about this podcast, this episode, but the show in general. You can tell them, hey, you should go to podcastnobodyaskforthis.podbean.com. On there, you can see the links to our Spotify, our Apple, I don't really think there's a necessity for other podcast apps, but I do believe they exist. You can go there. You can also see the link to our Instagram, which I have not updated in weeks. I'm going to get around to doing that. And then Facebook, Twitter, same thing, or whatever Twitter's called now. TikTok, I think we've given up on that. You know, I've really sort of not even removed myself. I was never involved in the TikTok conversation, which is so funny because when I was in high school, Vine was so popular and everyone was always like quoting these Vines and stuff. And I just never really got into it. And then Vine eventually shut down. And I always told myself, like, if there's ever another Vine, I got to be the first person on it. You know, because I've been feeling so left out. Like, I don't know what any of these Vines mean. So if this ever happens again where there's this app that's like short videos and everyone's quoting these short videos, like, I got to be number one in line. And I failed again. Part of it I blame on the fact that I didn't ever really have to like fully quarantine during COVID to the point of like I didn't leave the house for weeks because I worked, like I still worked. Like my work never closed where I was at the time. And then I was still doing online school. So I never really had like a lockdown, which I'm very grateful for this. Like I'm very lucky, but like I never sat around the house for like weeks on end, maybe months with nothing to do. So I never really got into TikTok when it started. And then now it's just a thing. And I just don't have it. I don't even have the app. But to be honest, I wouldn't be able to see anything through the green line on my phone. And I probably have no storage either. So maybe it's for the best. I don't know. Sometimes I do have the YouTube app. So I'll see a YouTube short every once in a while, which is like the YouTube version of TikTok. So anyway, I hope in the time that I've been explaining all this nonsense, you phoned a friend who wants to be a millionaire style and told them to check our website out, check our social media. Have a great not Thanksgiving. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Have a great, whatever it's called, Halloween. And I will see you when the gingerbread lattes come out. Bye.